Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7. In today's video I am going to do a full rundown and event overview of all 5 of the new events that came with GT7 update 1.42. Now in the form of these events we have the brand new Jimny Cup, which is also an additional menu book which I've covered in a basic overview. I'll give you a bit more of a rundown into that one. We also have 2 additional events to the VGT Trophy, in the form of a race at Monza and a race at Tokyo Expressway. So they're 2 additional events on top. We'll go through the VGT Trophy first, as I've not covered them at all yet, and then we'll head back over to the Jimny menu book for a quick overview and event rundown of those. So let's start off with the VGT Trophy. This pre-existing event now has 2 new events added to its roster, the first one of which is going to be at Monza. Now as you can see, it's going to be an 850 pp limit over a 5-lap sprint, so once again as usual we're not worrying about fuel or tyre wear. Now I'm going to go for the Genesis X. This is the latest VGT car that anyone can pretty much access in GT7. I'm not going to change anything on it, I'm not going to bother with suspension, tyres or anything like that. I'm just going to run it as is, and surprisingly enough this is actually a very enjoyable car to use, actually exceeding my expectations for it, although they were relatively low anyway. In terms of the event itself, I don't think really anyone's going to have much difficulty actually taking the win here. I'm currently running all of these events on the hardest difficulty, and like I said, this VGT is completely unchanged, so it is exactly how I received it when I got it as my gift reward. In terms of the event AI here, I've noticed that a lot of them towards the sort of mid to rear of the field are very much not catered towards the Monza layout. Obviously it's a Temple of Speed, a very quick layout, and you're going to find that only really a few cars that are actually on the grid are capable of properly tackling this track. Most of the other vehicles, apart from maybe 3 or 4, are relatively low on the top speed, meaning that as soon as you hit the straight, especially if you're going to be using the Genesis like I am here, you're basically just going to walk it, including the Bulgari. Honestly, the false advertising for that car coming with this update felt like a kick in the teeth, so I just thought I'd highlight that it is already in the game but inaccessible to everyone other than the people that ordered a £4.5 watch on December the 4th. So yeah, pretty disappointing. In terms of the event itself, you'll probably notice that it is the other Genesis and the Porsche VGT that really start making their way through the grid in the latter stages. However, you should be able to get this one done relatively comfortable, especially if you're using a car like me that is very good on the overall top end. As you can see, I ended up with a 4-second gap. The fastest lap was actually set by the Porsche VGT Spider, which was on the final lap there of a 1 minute 40.448, seemingly the quickest car on the grid, especially in the later stages of both of these 2 new events. In terms of payout, it's not too bad, 127,500 credits for around about 8 to 10 minutes of your time, so not too shabby at all. In terms of the second event, we have another VGT race obviously, and this one is going to be over at Tokyo Expressway. This is going to be on the south counterclockwise layout, again a similar grid to what you've already seen, so expect a fair mixed bag of vehicles on the grid. Although there's an 850 pp limit, I was able to absolutely wipe the floor with the majority of these cars, and obviously being pretty well under that 850 limit, so it's a mixed bag of where the cars are actually ranging. As you can see here, we're going to start off and begin a battle with the Subaru. Again, a lot of this track is very fast, which is where the Genesis is going to come in particularly handy, especially in terms of the majority of these cars. As you can see, we're just absolutely blasting past them even on this high difficulty. As we go throughout the race, you'll probably notice that a lot of the cars will start to bunch up here at Tokyo. It's rather quite a tight layout, so if you do want that clean race bonus, just be as cautious as possible. As you can see there, I took a bit of a risk in actually running into the side of the Mercedes here, but did manage to keep it clean and start pulling away through a bunch of these slower cars on the grid, meaning that by the time we come to the end of the first lap, we're going to be pretty high up that grid. Now once I got to around about the halfway stage, I did notice that some of the quicker cars were starting to run away out front. You know, there's quite a big gap between sort of the back of the field and the front. In fact, quite a large gap. We're going to end up once again passing the Bulgari. Doesn't seem like a car that's particularly good on its overall top speed. The main contenders for this race were the Genesis X, the Peugeot VGT, and obviously once again the Porsche VGT Spider, which seemed to again come into its own in the latter stages of the race. We did take the lead towards the end of the third lap. However, once we got to the fifth lap, I did notice that the Porsche, now kind of free of the rest of the pack, was managing to keep pace and also be a much quicker car overall. So that is possibly another good choice for this event. However, it's electric and very much a boring vehicle. We did eventually take the win, only just though by around about half a second to that pursuing Porsche VGT at the end, which also did once again take the fastest lap with a lap time of a 1 minute 50.234 on lap 4. In terms of the payout, once again, we did manage to take the clean race bonus, and once again we're going to get 127,500 credits for around about 8 to 10 minutes of your time. So again, not too bad overall in terms of the payout. Let's move on next back to the Jimny Cup, the new menu book or menu book number 50 for GT7. So for this one, you're obviously going to have to get your hands on the Suzuki Jimny XC from 2018 for a minimum of 18,000 credits. I do recommend putting upgrades on it though. For event number 1 of 3, you're going to head over to Willow Springs International Raceway for a race at the Horse Thief Mile. Now this is quite a tight and awkward circuit, meaning that if you do want that clean race bonus, just keep it clean and try and time those overtakes. Although the Suzuki Jimny is rather a narrow and small vehicle, obviously falling into the K-car category, it still looks relatively wide on a, you know, relatively tight track. So again, just pick them off. If you've got upgrades on the Suzuki, you shouldn't really have any problems at all with really any of these events. I'm going to keep this one in real time, and you're going to see that even on the hardest difficulty with upgrades and keeping the standard comfort medium tyres on, we're still going to manage to take the lead come the second lap. This is a 4-lap sprint. In fact, all of these are going to be very, very quick sprints. So overall, we're not worrying about tyres or fuel once again, meaning that there's no endurance races actually for any of these events for update 1.42, and well, that's just not a shock at this point. As you can see, the AI is relatively inconsistent. Sometimes they are relatively quick into corners, other times they just seem to be absolutely crawling and struggling to sort of get slowed down and get going again in a decent enough way. So we're already in P3 come the end of lap 1. Couple more Jimnys up ahead. We're going to take second place just here down the inside, getting ourselves on the dirt quite slightly, and then again we're just going to begin to line up P1 to take that P1 position and basically the overall win. As soon as you've got the lead, you will notice that the AI just seems to basically just end up nowhere. They'll pretty much just drop out of existence, and that'll leave the rest of the race for you to be able to make up time and basically just push yourself to the finish pretty much uncontested. As you can see here, we're coming to the end of lap 4, and we're going to open up around about a 14-second gap to P2. No real opposition for any of these Jimny races, but again, this is a full event guide, so I'm going to cover absolutely everything. So there we go, that is event number 1 of the Jimny Cup done and dusted. In terms of the overall time, you're looking at around about 4 minutes to complete this one. I got fastest lap of a 1 minute 6.540, which was set on my final lap whilst also kind of messing around and sort of drifting and killing off a bit of extra time. So again, expect to be closer towards the 4 minute mark if you're not messing around and you are using, once again, a fully upgraded Jimny. So no real competition, no fuel or tyre wear to worry about in that one. However, things are going to be shaken up in the next 2 events. 60,000 credits for this one with that clean race bonus on top. Again, a relatively short event, and I don't think many people will have too much trouble with this one. I would go on to say that, you know, the next 2 events are probably a little bit more difficult for the average player, and that is thanks to this, a change in surface. We're going to head over to the dirt next, so make sure that you've got yourself a set of dirt tyres for your Jimny. In terms of the overall event, it's going to be much more awkward just due to the absolutely horrific dirt physics that feature in GT7. However, don't expect much in terms of competition from the AI. They are very inconsistent on the dirt. In fact, your own worst enemy for this one is actually going to be you yourself and how you manage to handle the dirt physics. So again, all cars on the same compound of tyres. There's no difference in dirt tyres. Obviously it's a universal tyre and the only single compound to choose from. Apart from that, I honestly recommend just going for a few upgrades and you'll probably walk the rest of the AI. You may notice that they may take some very awkward lines, they may run wide and, you know, kind of slam themselves into some of these invisible fences and walls that we kind of see around these dirt layouts, and overall just be a complete nuisance and more of a roadblock than actual competition. I think you should anyway take this win relatively easy. Again, just watch for your own driving and you should be safe for the rest of this event. As you can see, we're around about halfway through lap 1 and we're already getting to the point where we're basically just going to take the lead and, you know, never look back. At the end of lap 2, as this is only a 2-lap sprint, we're going to be around about 14 seconds ahead. I can only assume that the AI start tripping over each other with the awkward dirt physics that they're trying to keep a you know, hand on. So in terms of the overall event, this is the shortest one of the update at 3 minutes 5 seconds. Again, you shouldn't have too many problems. Also the lowest paying at 45,000 credits with that clean race bonus on top. So a easy event. Now we're going to go into something a little bit different once again, a bit more of a sort of, I guess, journey trotting event. This one, we're going to head over to Lake Louise, the latest track to GT7, for the final event of this update. This is going to be set on the short track reverse. Personally, my least favorite of all of the sort of, I guess, Lake Louise layouts. Ensure you've got the snow tires and you are pretty much good to go. I'd certainly go on to say, you know, the snow driving physics are a step above what we see with the dirt. It's much more easier to be consistent, and to be honest, this perhaps makes this one the easiest event of the bunch, mainly because the snow physics are relatively good and the AI just seems to be all over the place once again. I don't know what it is about putting the AI in GT7 off-road, but they just become either very slow or very accident prone and start bumping into each other and sort of holding each other up. It's really kind of immersion breaking. Although I do like the basic premise of these events as they're a little bit different from the usual, it's just kind of spoiled by that inconsistent AI, meaning that, like me, you'll probably end up taking this lead very early into this event and then almost kind of driving off into the distance on your own. As you can see, a 3-lap sprint once again. So overall a very short event, a very short overall layout. So we completed this one in around about 3 minutes 28. No real competition from the AI, again just kind of all over the place. In terms of the gap, this was the one with the biggest gap, 18 seconds over 3 minutes, or 3.5 minutes, again easily taking the overall fastest lap. 52,500 credits for the completion with that clean race bonus on top, and that is going to be the final event of update 1.42 fully covered. So in terms of the overall events for 1.42, this is perhaps one of the weakest bunch of events we've ever had. To be honest, they're all just quick sprints, and overall in terms of content time, you're looking at 20 to 30 minutes tops. It's very poor. Not only that, the cars themselves aren't really that interesting outside of any of these events, so yeah, overall not looking too good for update 1.42, and the fact that they actually hid away another car that was advertised as coming for this update until February is a massive kick in the teeth. Let me know what you think of these events. Whilst they're enjoyable, they're just not something that I can see myself going back to, at least really that far into the future. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Peace.